Hello everybody. Today I will talk about MariaDB as a service, specifically about auto clustering, about vertical and horizontal scaling within Jelastic Platform as a Service. My name is Ruslan. I am co-founder and CEO of Jelastic Multi-Cloud Platform as a Service. Our platform was designed for developers to simplify their daily life while provisioning new service, configuring them, creating complex topologies for load balancing, high availability, as well as for configuring complex continuous integration and delivery pipelines. So, at my presentation, I would love to talk about downtimes and how to avoid these downtimes, what kind of functionality people introduced and specifically Jelastic offers for its customers. So, and while this issue is important, because when downtime happens, companies lose money. There is a statistic how much money large companies lose per minute, per hour. So, but it's not only about money, it's also about reputation. You lose existing customers, they become unhappy, and you lose potential customers. So downtimes are really bad. But also, there is another problem. It's not an easy to avoid downtimes if you use standalone installations. You need to configure clusters for high availability and also for disaster recovery, for example. But such kind of topologies, they are complex to configure and specifically to maintain in the future, to do software updates during application lifecycle. So, to solve this problem, many companies that specifically develop databases, they move to database as a service direction. And Jelastic as a platform as a service moved to this direction as well. And there is a simple comparison how much work you need to do if you host MariaDB on premises, right? You must do everything by yourself. And when you host MariaDB on infrastructure as a service platform, so infrastructure platforms offer just automation regarding operating system and hardware maintenance. And then if you host MariaDB on Jelastic Platform as a Service, it gives you much more automation. So it releases your time, it releases your efforts, and you can focus on other things, on your business logic, right? So, and you can see the list of functionality Jelastic offers by default for every customer. So, but this is designed for self-managed service, let's say, right? You can also request managed MariaDB on top of Jelastic Platform as a Service, and one of the certified Jelastic providers will be able to offer fully managed service for you. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of automation Jelastic offers out of the box when you do self-managed, when you use portal for developers, for example. So we take care, specifically I want to focus on high availability configurations, for automatic horizontal scaling, as well as vertical scaling, and some optimizations of the default configuration. So all these tasks we do automatically for you. And we will talk a little bit more today how we perform these configurations and how we deliver this automation for you. So, but a little bit more about Jelastic partners around the world. Jelastic, we are, as a company, we are a software company. We focus on development of our software platform. We collaborate with many hosting service providers around the world, and we enable them to deliver modern cloud services, modern automation to different local markets. Today, Jelastic is available in more than 100 data centers, and we collaborate with more than 60 different service providers. So our network is growing almost every week. And specifically about MariaDB, we love MariaDB, and our customers love MariaDB. MariaDB has the second place among the other databases. It's pretty popular within Jelastic user base. Now coming back specifically to how it works within Jelastic. At the screenshot you see the topology wizard, where you can choose MariaDB as a certified container runtime. So you can choose different versions here. And there is one button, when you enable this button, the platform will switch on auto clustering mode for you. and you will be able to choose different replication schemas. There are 3 replication schemes that supported for MariaDB. Standard one like master-slave, master-master, and Galera. There is also possibility to increase number of resources available per each container, right? And there is also possibility to increase number of containers. So in other words, this reflects vertical scaling, and this buttons reflects horizontal scaling. Now, talking about master-slave replication, when a customer creates MariaDB master-slave scheme, by default we provision 2 master nodes, two nodes, one of them master and another slave, and 2 proxy SQL servers for load balancing your SQL queries. And we do some configurations by default. You can see the list of parameters we tune for you. It's possible to adjust these parameters afterward. With master-master, we also create 2 nodes, but 2 of them are working in the master mode. And also, there are 2 proxy SQL servers for load balancing your SQL queries. And you can see the list of configs we configure by default for you. With Galera cluster, we create 3 containers, 3 nodes by default, and 2 proxy SQLs. And there is a list of configurations we provide by default. Let's talk a little bit more in details about vertical and horizontal scaling. I love vertical scaling very much. I believe it's underestimated. I mean, the power of vertical scaling is underestimated. But what it means when I talk about vertical scaling? It means you can easily increase available resources per each instance, per each container. So remember, we run MariaDB instances inside isolated system containers. So, and you can adjust the limits on the fly. You don't need to migrate, or you don't need to restart your container. And also, we provide additional automation reconfiguring parameters, such as key buffers and caches. So after you adjust the limit, the scaling limit, we need to adjust also MariaDB instance. Otherwise, MariaDB will not be able to utilize all these available resources. So we do it automatically for you. Please keep in mind it's possible to switch off this automation and configure manually. But in the majority of cases, it works just fine. Let's talk about the difference while scaling virtual machines and containers vertically. For example, if you go to infrastructure as a service and you buy virtual machine, right, like so, and during some period of time, after some period of time, you realized you reserve it too small limits, let's say, what you need to do, like there are 2 issues. First of all, you need to buy, in the most cases, twice bigger machine, because the majority of infrastructure as a service vendors, they do not offer you very granular vertical scaling, so they force you to buy twice bigger amount of resources. And second issue, you cannot just add new resources to the same virtual machine. You must migrate instance from the existing one to a new one. So there is a manual work behind this vertical scaling, which is not very convenient way to scale your MariaDB instance vertically. If you scale containers specifically within Jelastic, there is a possibility to increase and decrease scaling limit on the fly. You don't need to do anything else. I mean, like migrating to another container, or buy like twice bigger amount of resources. You can add as much as you need specifically. So it's very flexible. It's much cheaper and faster to scale MariaDB with containers. And another advanced and very powerful functionality and feature we call pay-per-use billing model. And it's so powerful, many customers love it. And as soon as they realize how it works, they relax and they keep using Jelastic even more, start using Jelastic even more. So how it works? For example, when you go again like to infrastructure as a service, you buy virtual machine, let's say like 16 GB of RAM, right? But in the most cases, you don't utilize everything because you buy a little bit insurance just in case if more load is coming to your instance. So your instance should have some capacity to grow up. And also another issue, many customers, they use like dev and stage environment, and in these environments, resources just idling. So you don't utilize them, and it means there are a lot of resources that just underutilized, but it does not matter. You always pay for the limits. This model is called like pay as you go. Why pay as you go? Because when you run your virtual machine, when it's running, you pay, but it's regardless of the consumption inside. When you stop, you don't pay. So it means like pay as you go, pay as you run. But in Jelastic, we introduced new different model, which we called next generation and cloud native pricing. And it works in the following way. You can set scaling limit, but if you don't utilize up to the scaling limit, you only pay for the amount of resources your instance consumes. We believe it's much fair and it's more flexible billing model for end customers. So it gives two main benefits. First of all, you save money for resources you don't consume, and the second, it solves right sizing problem. You don't need to guess in advance how much resources to order per each container. Just imagine if you have many environments, if you have many containers, it's very hard to predict in advance what the load will be during the time. So within Jelastic, this problem is just solved because you set high scaling limit for your MariaDB instance, and that's it. If MariaDB is consuming this, you pay. If it doesn't consume, you don't pay. Very easy and flexible. Good. Let's talk now about horizontal scaling, how it works within Jelastic. We're coming back to this topology wizard. And you can see there is a plus and minus button. So it means you can remove or add new instances with MariaDB. And the good point, these instances will be automatically added to your cluster. Depending on your scheme, if you work like master-slave, it will add more slaves. If you work like master-master, it will add more slaves as well and connect them to the masters. If you work in Galera mode, it will add more masters. And there is another interesting drop-down, like mode for scaling. It's possible to choose stateless or stateful scaling mode. What it means? It means stateless mode, when you scale in stateless mode, we create new empty container with empty MariaDB instance. And then you need to configure, if you do it manually, actually, clustering manually. But in Jelastic, it's automated, but just for your understanding. So it's empty container, and you need to configure replication, and data will go through replication to this new container. In stateful mode, we clone master node with whole data inside, and you just connect this to your cluster afterward. So it's much, let's say, the data will be in this new container. So this is the difference between stateful and stateless scaling. Let's talk now about specific details, how it works per each schema. Let's talk about master-slave, automatic horizontal scaling. When customer press a plus button and we add automatically new node, but first of all, we drop one slave from proxy SQL load balancing distribution list. So then we stop the slave and we clone the slave in a stateful mode. So we clone with the whole data. Then we start the original slave and return the slave to the proxy SQL load balancing list. Then we adjust configurations of the recently created slave node. Specifically, we adjust server ID and report host, and we launch this new slave and add this to the proxy SQL schemas. And as soon as all transactions are applied to the new slave, proxy SQL will distribute the request to this new node as well. So this is in short how it works. You can find the link to the logic, to the source code of this logic, so you will be able to analyze by yourself how it works. Good. Master, how it works, automatic horizontal scaling. First of all, we drop second master from the proxy distribution list. So only one master works if you have only two nodes. And then we stop the master and we clone this master in stateful mode as well with the whole data inside. Then similar to the previous algorithm, we start the second master and return this to the proxy SQL load balancing distribution list. We reconfigure cloned node as a new slave, and then we launch this new slave and add this to proxy SQL list. After this, this new slave will be able to handle new requests. If you scale more nodes, I mean, if you add more nodes horizontally, we add new slaves only in these schemas, but these slaves will be connected proportionally to every master node. So, for example, if you have 4 slaves, 2 of them will be connected to one master and 2 of them will be connected to another master. Please feel free to analyze the logic, which you can find under this link. Now let's talk about the Galera cluster automatic horizontal scaling. When customer press plus button, we create new node in a stateless mode. So we create a new empty container with empty MariaDB. Then we pre-configure some parameters and we add this node to the cluster. And we also add this node to proxy SQL, but without distribution. So as soon as all data is synchronized through the state snapshot transfer, and as soon as the synchronization is complete, proxy SQL will include this node into the distribution list. So, and this node will be able to handle new requests. If you add more nodes, it will work in the same way. But we were talking about when you press plus button manually. It's possible to add more automation to your cluster with auto-horizontal scaling triggers, thresholds, let's say. For this, you need to go to settings of your environments and switch to auto-horizontal scaling tab, and you will see there are different thresholds based on CPU, memory, network, and disk. You can specify when to add new node. For example, based on CPU, when the load is more than 85%, please add one more node. And please remove this node when load is go down below 35%. It's just an example. So you can fine-tune these parameters and configure fully automated horizontal scaling. Please keep in mind, after this new node will be added, all logic, all automation I just described previously will be applied automatically for you. So you don't need to do anything actually. In addition to automatic horizontal scaling, there are useful load alerts we configure by default for you just to let you know when load is coming close to the limits. We configure load alerts for CPU, memory, disk, and inodes as well, and network. So you can adjust this default load alerts, or you can add your customs. It's very useful again to understand maybe like you did not configure horizontal scaling for some reason, right? Or you want to get alert when it's coming close to horizontal scaling. So feel free to use this useful functionality. But also we take care about OOM kills, because sometimes OOM kills happens. When it happens, when load inside the containers is coming close to the available limits. I mean, to the limits of available memory, right? And then system will kill instance of MariaDB. So what we do in this case? First of all, we adjust configurations. So if you use our default configs, I mean autopilot mode, let's say, then our system will automatically reduce a little bit InnoDB buffer pool size, like on 10%. And then restart MariaDB instance and see how it goes. Like if another OOM kill happens, then it will repeat the same exercise. So it will reduce a little bit InnoDB buffer pool size. So in such way, we want to avoid any OOM kills. So you can adjust how much per each step to reduce through specific parameters, let's say, right? Specific environment variables. Or if you don't like it for some reason, you can just enable auto configurations at all. So, but I do recommend to use this autopilot mode. Extra functionality for extra protection, for extra heavy anti-affinity rules. When you create two nodes or in the same environment of MariaDB, we don't place them on the same physical box. We distribute them across our infrastructure. So we put this MariaDB into different host nodes. It means when one host node fails, your cluster will keep working because there is still one node is available. By the way, if you create like 5 nodes, it will work in the same way. Like if cluster, I mean, if there are 5 physical nodes behind the main cluster of your cloud service provider, every instance will be placed into a separate physical node. So in this way, we ensure extra protection for your environment. For the most advanced people and for the most demanding who want to do extra configurations, who want to attach custom logic while scaling, Jelastic offers events, different events. You can attach your custom logic to these events. You can see what kind of events we have. You can go to the documentation page and review how it works. The logic should be written with help of cloud scripting. It's pretty simple declarative language. But you can also just inject JavaScript language, Java scripting, let's say, yeah, and create extra logic for you. So call extra APIs or even call some SSH commands and do some extra logic inside the nodes. So very useful. We actually use this functionality to configure our auto clustering logic. Great. However, you know, like sometimes cluster within one data center is not enough because huge disasters unfortunately happens. And recently, as we know, one data center of OVH was completely burned out. Like, you know, like it lost a lot of data and a lot of customers were damaged. It's a very serious issue, right? Like, unfortunately, again, like nobody can be like protected from such kind of disasters because like maybe it's like human mistake, like, or I don't know, like maybe some hardware did not work well. So, but how we can help our customers to be even more protected? For this, we offer and we do recommend to use multi-region and multi-cloud deployments. And it's not easy, honestly, to configure clusters in different regions, but still, Jelastic offers simplicity to deploy into different regions, to different clouds, and manage in the same way with the same API your clusters in different regions, in different data centers. So you get real full interoperability. But even more, to make life of developers and DevOps team even more easier, we work on advanced automation on advanced packages that can deploy clusters into different regions and configure synchronizations between these regions. For example, here you can see like multi-region deployment of WordPress clusters. It works in the following way. Like we deploy WordPress cluster, which includes MariaDB Galera cluster inside into 3 different regions. And then we configure synchronization and replication between these Galera DB instances across all regions. So if one region goes down, your application will keep handling requests. So in Jelastic, such kind of complexity is hidden behind one-click button, literally. So you just choose a package, you choose regions, you press button deploy, and then you enjoy. For the most demanding customers, there is a possibility to adjust and fine-tune configurations, but for the majority of customers, it just works fine. So that was in short about MariaDB within Jelastic. If you have more questions or any questions, please feel free to contact me via social media or just send message to info@jelastic.com. But also, I suggest you to try by yourself and play by yourself and get familiar how MariaDB clustering and horizontal and vertical scaling works in Jelastic. Please sign up at this page, try it out, and let us know what you think. Thank you very much. Be safe. And I hope to see you soon in person at some conference. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Great presentation, Ruslan. Thank you.
Thank you too.
I think it was very convincing. At some points, I thought it was a bit too good to be true because most things were automatic. And while I think that's good, as a user, I will be tempted into a state where I don't understand the underlying logic. Everything is automatic anyway. So given that this and that is automated, what is left to do manually?
Okay, very good question. So you still need to think about your backup for now, like, right? So it's coming in the near future, but for now you need to uncomment some scripts and you will backup the system. Also, you need to do upgrades to a new version. So you need to at least initiate. We have automation for this, but you need to initiate upgrades. We don't upgrade automatically.
Upgrades of MariaDB server, you mean, or?
Yeah, upgrade of MariaDB version, like software version, like the MariaDB server. So what else? I don't know. It's mostly optimize for your specific application because it really depends on your application. So you need to tune some configs. Like we cannot do like magic for everyone.
Of course, and that was the root of my question. So like the settings, I saw there were some settings that you displayed in your video. So what are the most important settings?
Yeah, of course, buffer cache, let's say. So we configure it based on available memory. So more memory you give, more buffer you get. But you can adjust it based on your needs. And the rest actually you need to go and deep dive. Like in the future, we are planning extra automation when we learn based on the load patterns during the time. And then we update these configs, but it's not available yet. So for the next releases, let's say.
So let's say that I'm on the settings page, and that's a bunch of numbers. How do I get help in setting them? I mean, I can clearly experiment, and some of them are somewhat self-explanatory. But how do you have any kind of documentation on this, or is everything that can be documented also automated already?
So regarding settings related to MariaDB specifically, you need to go to MariaDB website and learn from that website, like what they mean, because it's not what we do. Our goal is to automate provisioning and some initial configurations and scaling. But if you want to tune, so please visit MariaDB website and learn specific setting, let's say, so information regarding specific setting. That's how it should be done. Yeah. Or if you don't want to do it or you don't have a time, just send a request to your service provider, and they will be happy to help you for sure. So they will be able to optimize.
One thing that you spent a lot of time on there was horizontal scaling, which is automatic, and vertical scaling, which is sort of also automatic. So how do I pick, or how does the system pick when it does horizontal and when it does vertical scaling, and how do I myself say which way to scale?
Good. So vertical scaling work by default automatically up to the limits you set from the beginning. So you set maximum scaling limit vertically, let's say 16 gigabyte, or 32 gigabyte, right? So it will work up to this limit. You can increase this manually after you reach the limit in case you need more resources. But the good point here that you don't need to think in advance about the sizing. So you can go high from the beginning because in Jelastic, you pay for what you use only, literally.
You made that point quite well. I think that made a lot of sense. Any concluding 20-second remarks that you wish people to take away?
Yeah, so please, when you upgrade, please create staging environment. So don't upgrade on productions, play before, don't apply everything directly on productions, please. So that's very important because we see people do it often, so play safely.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Ruslan Synytsky.
Thank you too.